This is a production of PBS Charlotte.
This week on Off the Record, Banktown gets a boost. It's a big bank merger and a new bank headquarters for Charlotte, and the name is familiar, at least for now. A Charlotte City Council member appointed by the governor to a state commission on human relations, then unappointed. We'll talk about why. Also, is 4 years too long? Is 2 years long enough? City Council looks at changing how often they're elected. And is David Tepper really suggesting a dome for the Bank of America Stadium? The Panthers owner talks about a possible change at the stadium and more events in the stadium. Off the Record is next on PBS Charlotte. Hi, I'm Suzette Ree, and this is Off the Record. Jeff is off today, where we talk about the stories you've been talking about this week. And if you watch the news, read the news, listen to the news, you'll recognize the names and faces around our table. Dedrick Russell, WBTV, Mark Becker, WSOC-TV, Eli Portillo, Charlotte Observer, and of course Ashley Fahey, Charlotte Business Journal. You can also join the conversation. Just email your questions and comments to offtherecord@WTVI.org. All right, let's get to it. Bank news in a bank town.
Back
Mark?
to the future, right? I mean,
Yes.
20 years ago, 21, I guess it was, that Nations Bank merged with, I should say, Concord Bank of America, moved the headquarters here, because really it is. It's in that case, it was a couple of giants, and
yes.
you know, a stare down, and Nations Bank won, and of course, what happened to Charlotte after that, we've all seen, and I was fortunate enough to speak with Hugh McCall, who engineered all of that, and of course he's very modest about it now, but looking back, you know, what he said was, look, we moved a lot of people here, and not just bankers, but the tertiary stuff that goes with it, the technical people and the other finance jobs, insurance, and all that comes with that kind of stuff. And things have since splintered out. I guess the Merrill Lynch part is in New York now, part of Bank of America. But a lot of people got here and go, hey, I don't know, cost of living's pretty good, weather's pretty good, we're going to stay here. And so now you fast forward to the future. Technology is hugely raced ahead. We had some of the video of the old computers in the Nations Bank office. Oh my goodness, you know, the big clunky off yellow or whatever it was. So all of that's changed. This is going to be a technology company, they say, and I think the impact is going to be substantial as well. Maybe not quite as big, but it reaffirms Charlotte, as Greg Phipps, city councilman, told me yesterday. It just puts us back where we know we belong, and that's banking.
And I think it is very important that this is going to be very tech focused. Because other operations are staying in Atlanta and Winston-Salem, where BB&T and SunTrust are respectively headquartered today. But the fact that Charlotte is getting a lot of what it seems, at least on the outset, tech jobs is a big deal, because as we all know, you know, like every other industry, technology is changing a lot of things. And as a result of the merger, one of the downfalls is that a lot of the retail branches are going to close.
Right.
So we're going to see some job losses in that world. But you know, Charlotte is going to be a beneficiary with an influx of, you know, fintech jobs, and the city has long said, you know, we want to be a center for that. And I think this might help put some teeth behind that, finally, with two, you know, large banks in the southeast coming together and basing their operations here in Charlotte.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, I was talking to Councilman James Mitchell, who is chairperson of the Economic Development Committee, and he says the interesting thing that with this merger, that the city did not offer any perks or didn't offer any incentives for, you know, BB&T, for the new headquarters to be here. They said that we want to add to Charlotte, not, you know, not get anything from Charlotte. They said that they're going to agree for the $15 pay for
the minimum wage.
The minimum wage.
Absolutely.
And they're going to add to the economic mobility conversation here. So so they said that they love Charlotte. Charlotte is a good place to live, good quality of living. So I thought that was very interesting that, you know, Charlotte didn't have to add to get that business
And
here.
neither did the state or the county.
Right.
And Charlotte City leaders and local economic development leaders are pretty giddy about this, because it continues this streak of positive news that we've had in the last few months for Charlotte. If you remember, just a few years ago, it seemed like Charlotte was losing everything during
Yes.
HB2. PayPal canceled their expansion. We lost CoStar canceled a major expansion or chose another location.
Right.
The All-Star Game moved away. Now look where we are. The All-Star Game is next week, and we've got all these announcements. Honeywell, this latest announcement, just kind of piling up on top of each other in the last few months. So Charlotte city leaders right now feel like they are really hitting their stride, and in a way kind of this is the upswing right after that huge downturn that we saw, what seems like a different world.
And just completely, as you alluded to earlier, free money. I mean, I don't think Charlotte was out recruiting for this. So I talked to a couple city council people yesterday. I asked the mayor, I said, you had to know this was happening. She goes, I found out at 6 this morning when my phone rang.
Wow.
And Greg Phipps says, I woke up at 5:50 and I saw this. Oh my goodness. And so Charlotte really the symbol of compromise. You have Atlanta, you have Winston-Salem. By the way, I'm told it's pretty big news in Atlanta, of course. SunTrust
Yes,
moving out
homegrown
of there.
company,
You know,
right.
I remember Hugh McCall years ago, and doing a big ta-da when we beat out Atlanta when one of his mergers, took a bank down there. So it's big, and it's just a manna from heaven, right? Just dropped on our plate. And really, it speaks a lot to the region, the community, because we didn't really have to recruit.
Right.
Well, it's also the second bank headquarters from Winston-Salem. In Wachovia was that in 2001 with First Union. So, this continues Charlotte's regional ascendance. I do think we should put in perspective the number of jobs. They employ about 2,000 people here right now, and that's still a lot smaller than the major bank, the two titans, Wells Fargo, Bank of America. The CEO said that will grow, but we will see some retail job losses probably. So the ultimate employment impact, I think, is going to take a few years at least before we see a huge difference.
And I think the next story is that who will be next? Because I guess Monahan, didn't he predict that these regional banks are there are going to be some more mergers that may be happening down the line? I was listening online, and they were saying that back in the 80s, there were like 15,000 banks around in America, and now that has whittled down to like 5,700 banks because of the mergers and things like that. So it'll be interesting who will be next.
Yeah, and I talked to a bunch of site selection consultants yesterday, and they said, with this era of, rolling back on bank regulations before, especially 2020 elections, a lot of banks are going to be looking to do more of these deals. So we'll have to just see if any more come to Charlotte.
Well, and it seems like it's a win-win for the city and everybody involved. The businesses wanted to be here. Any thoughts, anything on the street about a name? Because it's going to be one or the other, I thought, but not
Bank of
necessarily. Bank of Russell.
No, they're going to have to come up with something. But I mean, and I don't know if you saw the video news release they did yesterday. The two CEOs sitting next to each other had this wonderful sort of fist bump at the end, which all right, guys, you're hip, you're cool. But no, that's the kind of thing that I think they'll.
But we already have one name
September.
up on a stadium.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah.
B-Sun.
Ooh, hello.
B-Sun.
Hey,
I don't
that's
know.
not
Why don't
bad.
we have a lottery?
Hey, have a contest. But one thing I do want to add is that, a lot of people are now, they're pleased that that's happening in Charlotte because, when the recession hit, Charlotte was only banking focused, and when the recession hit, then the banking and things like that. But now city leaders believe that Charlotte has more little diversity here, with Honeywell and all these other companies, that if a recession does happen, God forbid that it does not happen, that all of our eggs would not be in the financial basket. And then if the financial industry takes a hit, then Charlotte would crumble.
Well, and I think you're right. It definitely feels like Charlotte is ascending again versus descending in terms of momentum and what's happening in our community. Well, let's talk about Councilwoman Luana Mayfield. That was a surprise. You don't often hear of someone being appointed then being unappointed.
Yes, so Luana Mayfield from District 3 City Council was appointed to the Human Relations Commission by Governor Cooper. They hear and adjudicate disputes about things like fair employment, fair housing, and Luana Mayfield is a black woman, openly queer. She tweets about this, she's proud about it. So it was seen as sort of an appointment that was very popular with several Democratic base groups. But Senate Republicans pointed to past controversial statements she's made, including saying police are domestic homegrown terrorists, and also questioning whether the 9/11 attacks were caused by a plane. And all 29 Senate Republicans signed a letter asking Roy Cooper to rescind this appointment. And surprisingly, the governor did. He rescinded it and immediately faced some backlash. The Victory LGBTQ PAC in Washington released a very strong statement about how Cooper was letting the community down. Council member Mayfield has been vocal in her discontent with this, and to me it raises the question of why she was appointed in the first place if the governor didn't want to stand behind the appointment, because her comments were extensively covered at the time she made them.
I mean, you didn't even have to fully vet to get there.
This was, we wrote news stories, we ran TV stories. This was not a secret that, whoa, emerged like a yearbook photo from the 1980s. This was all
I
out
don't know
there.
what you're talking about.
And that was all out there. So I think the question now is, what is the backlash going to be for Governor Cooper, and why was this appointment made if the governor didn't want to stand behind her?
Yeah, it's all in the moment. We sort of live in the moment now with Twitter and all that wonderful stuff we have going on. I tend to think, Eli, that this is going to probably go away pretty quickly. You know, this is something we're talking about today. We probably won't be talking about it in a couple weeks. I don't know, maybe he didn't do his homework. It's hard to imagine that. Didn't estimate maybe underestimated the response. But Luana Mayfield's been a lightning rod for a lot of issues, several issues anyway, over the last couple of years. And not a safe appointment. I think you could find somebody who has a lot of the same values and maybe even same experience and who would be a lot safer. And so I'm not entirely surprised that he pulled it back. I guess the surprise is that he may have overlooked some of these things when he appointed her to start with.
You know, it's just surprising, you know, is it different rules for different folks, because other politicians can be lightning rods and say what they want to say, and they are still in office and they still do the job that they need to do. But when it comes to certain people, it seems like different rules don't apply depending on who you are.
But be clear, I mean, she's been elected and has been reelected since those comments. But this is an appointment, right? So this is a little different than someone being
Well, and it does feel like if those aspects of her record are in contention, and that was what people were, you know, fighting against, it's just material that's already been there. You know, did it really have to take all the Republicans to say, you need to make this change? And that's the part I think that's surprising, is the undoing of the appointment that got more attention than the actual appointment.
In less than a day, right? Like in 24 hours.
It was a very quick reversal.
You know, a lot of people were saying that, Cooper, you're listening to politicians who crafted HB2, you know, so you're taking advice from, you know, those politicians. So, you know, I agree with you that they should have been a little bit more vetting, you know, before doing that, because, you know, if you're going to take a stand and stay behind it, but don't, you know, take a stand and then just whimper and just say, okay, then I fold.
Roy Cooper also faced some backlash from the LGBTQ community after the partial repeal of HB2. So while this incident might go away in a few weeks, we're probably not going to be talking about this for a year. I do think that it could add to the narrative of Cooper not being a strong ally, which some advocates in the LGBTQ community have put forward and have been unhappy with him already.
And some things you would never know what a good, you know, person she would have been on that committee. You know, even though she may have been a rock star, you know, she may have brought a lot of voice, a lot of attention, and she could have been a great committee member. But we will never know. And I think that Cooper probably saw that in her, opposed to seeing the tweets, you know what I mean? So that's just something you never see her full potential.
And we'll probably never know the process, but I'm just guessing, all right, that the governor says, whoever the governor is, says, I need people to appoint to X or Y board, and there are people who then are delegated to come up with these nominees. I don't know that the governor would have a full understanding or history of Luana Mayfield's history
The
here.
governor
So
is
somebody
appointing several
puts her
dozen.
name out there, right? And he says, okay, and then maybe he's the one who says, wait a minute, I didn't know all this. So there may be a little...
Yeah, but that's the part that doesn't quite sit well, right?
Well, he's at the end of the day, it's him who's appointing, so he should do his homework. However, maybe, I don't know, but maybe he trusts whoever came up with the nominees, and he just goes, okay. And maybe somebody's getting their ears burned in the office because they...
And also, Councilmember Mayfield is running not in her district, which has been very safe, but citywide. She's running at large this year. So we could also be seeing a preview of what's going to be used against her in this citywide race, because I expect Republican candidates who are trying to take back at least one at-large seat will point to her and bring up these same issues.
I'm sure.
Let's talk about
Elections, right?
Yes. Let's talk about, speaking of elections, term limits. Seems like every so many years in this community we talk about the 2-year versus the 4-year. Of course, in Charlotte, the county commissioners were the last ones to drive this dialogue. Thoughts? Word on the street about city council wanting, and we all know the difficult job of the 2-year term, that you serve a year and then you have to gear up already in the second year, and we've heard that. But voters in Charlotte-Mecklenburg seem to like the 2-year, the tighter control over who is sitting and representing them.
Yeah, because I guess if you're doing a bad job, it'll be easier to get you out in 2 years than in 4 years. And I know that there's been a lot of talk on social media about the 2 years because I guess what has the council done? We talk about affordable housing and things like that, and they said it's still slow going. And then the over budgeted projects that are out there. So they were saying that if we just had this in the first 2 years, my God, if you were there for 4 years, where would we be? So a lot of people are coming out and saying no to 4, keep it at 2.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a culture now where everything is more instantaneous, right? I mean, everything happens now, and so that's going against the grain of our culture now, is to actually extend. Wait a minute, we're going to be a little patient and give them 4 years instead of 2. It's going to be a tough sell.
Well, there are a few advantages that city council members point to when they advocate 4-year terms, and we should say that most of them, except the 2 Republicans, have come out and said that they are in favor of 4-year terms. That would give them more time between campaigns. They would also stagger the terms so that only about a third of the council could turn over every election, and opposed to situations like now where you have a majority of the council are basically in their first terms. So that's why city council members want that, plus they would not have to run all the time. But voters have tended to reject this pretty strongly. In 2015, they rejected the county commissioners referendum by a 2-to-1 margin.
Right.
So city council is planning to send this to a referendum right now, but there's not really any strong evidence that it would pass that I've seen.
Right. And then and people are saying that city council, they're tone deaf, because this argument has not come up from the community. This argument has come up through city council members. So therefore, if you're not listening to us, we don't have a problem with 2 years. We want to keep it at 2 years. But if you're bringing something up that your constituents are not even concerned about, what does that say for you listening to our concerns?
Right. And they're spending a lot of time talking about this. They're going to have to hold a public hearing that's in state law before a referendum. That'll be a long, involved hearing, most likely. There's been a lot of staff time spent on this at council's request, and it's not an issue that you really hear an outcry from the public for. So I think that's a political problem, and really, some people will say points to where their priorities are.
Would that be a binding referendum? Or
If
just an
it was
advisory?
approved, if it was approved by voters, it would be binding and take effect.
And you get the sense that sometimes, even if you went to the 4-year and voters, didn't think it was working, it's going to be a long process to undo anything in a change format like that. But what about, they've been in there a year. What about the headline grabbing, over the budget, over the top issues that have also dominated their work? I mean, in terms of timing, the trail, the over the budget $77 million trail certainly doesn't speak well to, their work in the headlines. So timing is interesting.
Well, that's one thing that some of them are actually using to point to a reason why they need longer terms. The Cross Charlotte Trail was started more than 6 years ago as a plan, and almost all the council members who were there at the time are gone. Since then, we've been through, I believe, 5 mayors, 3 city managers. Majority of the council is different members than were in place back then. So city council members are saying if we had more stability, if there wasn't so much turnover, projects like the Cross Charlotte Trail wouldn't just kind of run beneath the surface, accumulating problems until they explode into the open. So they're actually using that as an argument for longer terms. But a lot of people, of course, are pointing to the opposite.
Yeah, I think a lot of your average, voter is going to see that and say, this just gives me more reason to not support it.
Right.
Yeah.
$77 million, though, it's a phenomenal amount of money to fly under the radar of anybody's budget, much less cities.
Yes, it's about the same amount as the city is spending on their portion of the Gold Line extension streetcar. So it's a not insignificant amount of money. But
It's not the only project too, right? There's other projects that are underfunded as well.
right, there's at least 9 other projects that are either underfunded or could need more money, but City Council hasn't gotten a total estimate of those costs yet.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, can we talk about the dome? The dome? I mean, we're all hearing about the dome. Is it possible? Is it likely? But one thing that I've noticed is with the new ownership, the Panthers organization, what they are thinking, how they're plotting, it's much more in the eye than it ever was before.
It's a culture change, right?
Right.
Jerry Richardson was not in the eye. He was outside the eye. That was
Right.
his management ownership style. And Mr. Tepper's a busy man, but before he came here, he was on, network finance shows talking, and he was very visible. I kind of hesitate to call a billionaire like that a man of the people, but I think he is certainly far more than Mr. Richardson was. So the culture's changed, and I mean that's part of it. And so he comes in and goes, well, we put a lid on this thing, And I mean, I'm told I wasn't there, but it was almost casual like that. Well, we put a lid on it, like, sure, no problem. But that's thinking outside the stadium or the box or the dome, however you want to put it, that really has changed. And you're going to see something because I guess that indoor practice facility is first, right? But I mean, he's moved in, he's changing the wallpaper, right? That's how we do when we move into a house.
Exactly. And it's all about money. You know what I mean? I want to make money. I bought this team and I want to make money. I want to use this stadium more than just for 8 or 10 games in the football season. So, instead of putting a ring on it, put a dome on it. I mean, maybe you can come up with a tune instead of put a ring on it, put a dome on it. You know what I mean? So, put a dome on it. Put a dome on it. Put a dome on it. Just saying. Yeah. But, like we were talking last week, this is all about making Charlotte more diverse. If we can get a concert here, Final Four and all of that, and then also there are plans to try to get a 1,000 room hotel here, convention center hotel. So therefore, in order to sustain something like that, we have to have more events that would draw people all year long. And if you put a dome on the stadium, you can blow the roof off of all the ideas that could come that could be possible.
Yeah, he's talked about so many really big things like bringing MLS, he's reignited that conversation. He was saying at the press conference this week, I wish we could have booked the Rolling Stones here, when they're on their tour this year. And that's something.
Are they alive, those guys?
They're still touring. They're still rolling. They're still rolling. So, you've definitely seen this new and obviously very different leadership style, as Mark said. And, I think that they're definitely going to be very, quick and very, intentional about getting these things like the indoor, practice facility, the dome, things like that.
Well, and look at the Super Bowl in Atlanta. You saw all those exterior shots of that stadium. I mean, they're in the same division as the Panthers, and their houses look like, a tarp by the side of the road and a mansion when you put them on TV next to each other.
Well, we have a nice tarp. We have a very nice tarp.
I enjoy going to the stadium, but
Got good bones.
when you've got new stadiums emerging that look like that, I think it just throws it into starker relief. And then you throw in the tax value quadrupling, more than quadrupling, for the Panthers site. David Tepper is now looking at one of the oldest stadiums in the league without a dome, that's now worth more than $500 million he's got to pay taxes on. He's also one of the only owners and teams that pays property taxes in the NFL. That's a very unusual arrangement right there. So he's got a lot of financial reasons to be looking at this, and a lot of keeping up with the Joneses reasons to be looking at things like this.
Yeah. And
Jerry Jones.
And that's when you wonder, when is he going to come before council and say, listen, we need to do something about the stadium.
And speaking about coming to council, I was talking to one council member, and they want to make sure that the Panthers feel that they are welcomed, make sure that they feel valued here at Charlotte, because with the CIAA, a lot of people think that, we lost the CIAA because, they did not feel valued by Charlotte.
That is definitely a whole nother conversation.
Exactly. So therefore, what happened to the CIAA, we don't want to happen to the Panthers. So therefore, we want to make sure that we take pride in you and that we want you to stay here, because the bottom dollar, it's all about the money. If you stay, we get more money.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, as we wrap up, any other highlights of the week that you guys touched that we haven't talked about today?
Well, I just have to say, coming up next week is the trial of Raekwon Borum. a very divisive figure. There are people who are convinced he was the young man who was charged with shooting and killing someone during the protests, riots, whatever you want to call them, after the Keith Lamont Scott shooting 2 years ago. So there are people who are convinced that he was framed. And police and prosecutors say they have the evidence to the contrary. It'll be interesting to see how this community responds if we even care anymore. But it could be divisive.
And I know, and the sustainability of historically black colleges and university, that's in the headlines with Bennett College,
Yes, I saw
the
that.
only HBCU for women in the state of North Carolina and only one of two in the entire country. And they needed $5 million to try to keep their accreditation.
Right.
But
They got 8.
$8 million with people, pouring in and donations and things like that. So therefore, people are saying that in order for HBCUs to survive, it will take more people chipping in, and they're going to have to reimagine, the institution majors and things like that. So that has been in the forefront of people's minds, especially graduates of HBCUs.
Right. And it was a real education because it was through Bennett that the rest of us sort of learned that situation and the status across the country with those schools.
Exactly, because several HBCUs have closed down
Yes.
through the years, all because of finances.
Right.
At the city level, there's been a lot of conversations about opportunity zones, which are a tax break that was introduced in late 2017. The IRS is issuing a bunch of regulations and rules about that now, but it's estimated that potentially trillions of dollars could go into sort of what they call these opportunity zones, which are census tracts designated by first the local and then government and then accredited by the federal government to say, okay, well, we want to try to get investment in these communities. But the flip side of that is, could it speed up gentrification? And that's what City Council is saying. We need to take a closer look at this. We need to say, can we do anything? But right now, it doesn't seem like they can do too much. And that's something certainly we're all going to keep an eye on, because there's already been plenty of sales in opportunity zones.
And I'm continuing to cover the impacts of the revaluation and rising tax values. The county and city are doing their budget process right now, and there is, I believe, a public hearing scheduled on February 21st, sort of a community meeting that the county commissioners are encouraging lots of people to come to. You can find details about that on our website, charlotteobserver.com. And basically, I think this is going to be a very important political issue as people wait to see what the tax rate's going to be, and there's a lot of anxiety in the community about that.
Thank you, everybody. I always enjoy listening, learning, and having this conversation. We hope you've enjoyed it as well. Thanks for joining us. This is Off the Record for PBS Charlotte.
A production of PBS Charlotte.